Hi, my name is Ray Higdon, and I am the CEO of the Higdon Group. We help sales teams and sales reps close more confidently and be more effective in their networking. And so today I'm going to be talking about 5 strategies for successful networking, both online and offline. So here we go. Strategy number 1. Now, this shouldn't have to be said, but it does. Listen. Listen. You're going to a networking event or you're networking online. Listen to the other person. Don't be in such a rush to pitch your thing or show them your product or service. And so you want to listen. So spend more time being interested versus trying to be interesting. When you listen, you can think of other contacts you have that may be of interest to them to introduce them to, as well as know if they have a problem that your product or service can solve. Now, this even means you may actually refer them to someone who you don't have a monetary benefit from, but this shows that you actually care about helping them attain their desire or solve their problem. Number 2, be different, stand out. And so my favorite question, I actually learned this from a friend of mine named Bob Berg. He wrote an incredible book that I highly recommend called Endless Referrals. And it is, how might I know if I'm talking to a perfect prospect for you? So if you're talking to a realtor, a commercial realtor, resident, whatever, if you're talking to someone and you're networking, ask them this question. How might I know if I'm talking to a great prospect that would be a great prospect for you? Now, this is a question very few people ask, so it really makes you stand out. Number 3, fast research. So let's say that you're networking online or you meet someone at a networking event or a charity event or whatever. Before you follow up with them, do a little bit of research. We're in the digital age where we can look up their LinkedIn profile, we can look up their YouTube, perhaps Facebook, Instagram, whatever. We can do a little bit of follow-up. We can do a little bit of research. I'm not saying to hire a private investigator or something crazy, right? But we can do a little bit of research. This little bit of research stands out too. Most people don't do this step. And so, one of the things that stood out to me, I'm here in Naples, Florida, and there's a great restaurant here named Sales. Okay. And the owner of Sales is a guy named Velko. And I remember we booked a Valentine's Day dinner, for, their restaurant. Very nice restaurant. It's right on Fifth Avenue and 3rd. And we go we go into our reservation and he says, "Hey, I like your videos." And I'm like, "Oh yeah? You like my videos?" And then he mentioned something specific in a video I'd done that week. I was extremely impressed. And so, like, when we're going to pick a restaurant, I think of that restaurant first because he did something no other restaurant owner has ever done. He did some fast research on me. And I don't know how much research, but he was able to quote from a video I had done that week. That's amazing. What if, when you're networking, you did a little bit of tiny research just to stand out? Maybe find out where they went to college, find out what their, what college are their kids going to, or what's a big highlight in their life right now? What's a big merger they just did, etc. Little bit of fast research. Number 4, now this also, it pains me that I have to say this, but 20 years of training sales reps and training networkers all over the world. Number 4 is follow up. I should not have to say this. This should be automatic. You should, when you meet somebody, you should be like, I must follow up with them. But most people don't. In fact, I remember many years ago, I went to what was called, I don't know if they're still around, but it was called Learning Annex. And Learning Annex, I mean, they had all the big names. They had, Tony Robbins, they had Robert Kiyosaki, they had, you name it, like big gurus, and all around. Learning Annex was around real estate and self-development. Okay. And so I go there, and I had actually priced out running a booth. Now, my company was very early on back then. And so I could not afford a booth. Okay. But like for $5,000, you could have this tiny little space. Like you couldn't put your arms out because you'd be outside of your space. Tiny little space for $5,000. But they had some spaces that were $100,000 for sponsors. And so I wanted to do a test. I went through the Learning Annex sponsorships, and I mean, they had a lot of them. And so, I mean, some of these guys spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this sponsorship. And I purposely put my business card in each of the little fish bowls and each of the little boxes. Guess how many followed up with me? Now, just before you answer, the minimum they spent was $5,000. Guess how many followed up with me? Zero, none, nada, nobody. How crazy is that? They had spent at least 5,000, but some of them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and no one followed up with me. Crazy. So if you want my goodness, easiest way to stand out, just follow up. Now, if you combine fast research with follow up, you really, really stand out. Number 5, earn your time. So after you've listened more than you talked, you've done your fast research, you've followed up, you will have earned your time to share what you do and how you may be able to help them or someone that they know, and make sure that you convey in a very simple to understand way. They need to understand, not some complicated, there needs to be no, mental process of trying to understand what you do. It needs to be very, very simple. You do those 5 steps, you are going to be a top 1% networker. And if you're a top 1% networker, guess what? You're making a whole lot more money and a whole lot more impact than all of your competitors. And so I hope this was helpful to you. Drop a comment if it was, and feel free to subscribe to this channel.